All right, I got them all glued up. Now let me show you something. If you notice here in the corners of this one, this is nothing more than a piece of MDF. Cut square, couple holes drilled in it for the clamps. When you're gluing up large cases or carcasses, whatever you want to call them, to have something like this that you can put in the different corners and whatever to keep everything square as the glue dries and whatever, it really helps a lot. Now there's a lot of, there's a lot of stuff out there, and a lot of, they make aluminum corner brackets and all that, and they work well. But, just a little piece of MDF with a couple holes drilled in it to keep that corner square works really well. I don't know, see what we got here. Can you zoom in on this? Just one of them fancy digital things. I'm gonna tell you what, these things are nice, but I tell you, sometimes they measure a little more accurate than you really want. But it's, let me get it. 89, 9, and I'm 90 degrees, I'm square. I'm half a degree. That's square. Okay, and that's again where, clamping something in there. Now one of the things here at our shop is we got really bad floors. And you know what? A lot of houses have bad floors. And that's kind of what we've been talking about with a pie safe, is that, if this thing is sitting and if we don't have good structure, then this side wants to drop and that throws you doors and everything. So we want to make sure we do everything we can to make these as strong as possible. Again, they're all glued up. Now every joint in this will get pegged. Now I wanted to turn this around a minute because I wanted to show you the back. Sorry for the noise. You notice here, this is where we took the dado and took that notch out here. Now on this on this one that's getting the drawer, what I did was I just simply cut this one back so that the back will go all the way down. And then of course the notch here. Now what that's going to allow is when we put our back in, it's this ridge right here, and we're going to fit this tight. And what that's going to do is it keeps this thing from being able to move. Puts a lot of strength in there. Now in order to get it in the back or down the sides, we talked about this, we're going to use a wing cutter. Now I'm lucky in the fact that I've got more than one. So anyway, but that little thin one, all you have to do is make a progressive cut down until you reach the level that your notch is cut. Simple as that. Now what I've got is I've got a 1/4 inch one, and it's going to allow me to be able to cut it a little easier. So it's just a simple matter of running it. Let me see if I can get around here. Now one of the things when you're doing something like this, I'm going to be pulling it toward me just so you can see. So but I'm still going the right direction because the bit is spinning this way. But make sure you keep your pressure, because you've got this narrow rail, make sure you keep your pressure to keep you flat on that rail. All right. Let me get it down and show you what we have. Or just let me turn it up. If you look, you see where a corner is here? All we got to do is just simply take a chisel, square that up. Not hard. And now when we put our back in, see, this gives us an overlap. Square up that corner, and we have nice provision for our back. Now, with the backs done, we have to turn our focus to getting our bottom in. And we're going to talk just a minute here about the top. Now, you don't have to put an inner top. Not necessary. You could put some little glue blocks up here, corner blocks, and just simply screw the top on. And I'll show you about that. But we're going to do something kind of cool. And I think you'll like it. What we're going to do is we're going to put an top in it, an inner top. That's going to seal it off. Then we're going to have the top goes on top of that, and we're going to hinge it. We're going to hide some little hinges back here. So you can lift it, and there's a hidden compartment in there. And you know, I've been doing furniture a long time. And when you come up with little neat things like that, little hidden compartments and stuff like that, people love it. You know, when you get into doing stuff like these secretaries and things like that, and you can create those kind of things, and you got a customer really interested in it, and they're, you know, whatever, you start showing them hidden compartments, it's going out the door. They like it. Nice little touch, and it's just fun. You know, it's a little different. So that's what we're going to do. Now, one of the things we got to deal with when we get to this shelf, or the top and bottom, is that we've got expansion and contraction. Now, oftentimes in the old-timey pie safes, you would see the bottom with the boards running front to back. Now remember, wood expands and contracts across its width. This way. It doesn't grow. It goes this way. So the reason they did that was so that the expansion and contraction would be this way, from left to right. I really don't care for that look. I prefer to see the grain running long ways. But that also means I got to do something different. I've got to allow room for expansion and contraction. And I'm going to show you how we do that. What we're going to do is I'm going to make a cleat, which is basically an L shape. And we're going to attach it down through here, and then it'll have a ledge sticking out. And you'll see. This allows me, number one, when I glue that on, I'm going to span this joint again with a glue, with a piece of wood glued. So that's actually going to reinforce this area even more. Can we get in here and see it? It'll be sitting in here about like this with a piece coming out. Then our bottom's going to set down in here, but it's not going to, we're going to have some space between the edge of it and the back. Then we're going to take a little molding and we're going to put in here to come and go over that, so that this bottom can move. Make sense? We're going to do the same thing in the top. Just makes for good construction. You just got to think about expansion and contraction. Again, if you're using plywood or something, it's not an issue. Okay, so I'm going to make up these little cleats so you can see them, and we're going to work at getting our bottom and top in. Okay, here's what I made. This is 1 inch right here, and this is 1 3/4 inches. And what this is going to do, as I explained, it's going to create us a little shelf down here. so that when we set our shelf in here, it's going to stay nice and strong. Actually, I think I got that wrong. I do. Because I want the wide part going down through here. Now, what I did was I took a little sliver off, a little piece off the side of one of the shelves. They're already processed, the thickness. And all I did was clamp it in here flush with my surface so that when I attach this, when I glue it in, I've got my depth set correctly. I don't have to worry about it. You know, again, it's a thing of doing it's a physical measurement. You know, I could take a combination square and set it and draw a line and measure and do all that. This just makes it too quick and easy. Now, I'm going to glue it in place, and I'm just going to take a few brad nails and stick it just to make sure. And I want to make sure I got plenty of glue on those edges because I'm going to really help reinforce that. Now, those of you who may be doing this and all of this is 3/4 material, then you're going to have a little offset in here. Meaning you're going to have a notch back here. That's okay. That just means you're going to have to make your cleat sit between the post and come out. But that also is going to reinforce again and strengthen your front. Now I'm going to put some clamps on this as well. I'm just sticking these little brads in here where they won't be seen up underneath, just enough to make sure that when I clamp it, nothing moves around. That's simple. I'm going to do the same thing on this side as well as the top. Then we're going to come back and we're going to be looking at the pie safe. We're going to put the drawer in because we got to make provision for our drawer runners, and we'll look at that. All right. Camera girl says it's starting to look like something instead of a ladder. Hope so. Before I go to the drawer thing, I wanted to show you exactly, make sure you understand exactly what we're talking about. This is our floor. And of course, this is our top. Now, one of the things, and you notice right here, see this expansion joint? It's exactly what it is. Now, once we're done, we'll actually make a little molding that extends over this so that you don't see that. Also, so that debris or nothing can fall down in it. That's the big thing. Now, one of the things, what we'll do, now this was one of those pieces of poplar that didn't clean up on the back real good. So you notice we just put the ugly side down. Anyway, then what we'll do is we'll be drilling this with some slotted holes and screwing it in from the bottom. Now that does a couple things. One, it's also going to add, again, more structural strength to the piece. Not that we really need it. I mean, this thing's built like Fort Knox, right? But the other thing it does is it's going to allow me to finish the shelf. I got sawdust in my hair or something. Oh, well, you have that around here. The other thing it allows me to do is it allows me to finish these, the tops and bottoms and everything, separately. Now, in my world, where we spray a lot, that really helps because the more open everything is, the easier I can get to it, the more accessible it is. Even if you're wiping or brushing, it makes for finishing a whole lot better. And you're able to access, get into everything, and that helps you prevent runs and drips and things like that. We do a thing, and on some of our DVDs and stuff, and in one of them, we've got a finishing thing. We have a whole disc on building the finish. And you have to start thinking about that when you start. How you're going to be able to get in and sand something, how you're going to be able to access it to be able to finish it well. And just so you know, I realize there's a lot of experts out there that tell you it's not necessary to finish both sides of wood. But we're gonna. All I can tell you is this, okay? Again, 35 years of doing it, and I started finish when I was 13 and I'm now 57. I've always finished both sides and I've never had an issue, never. So I'm the old school guy that says if it ain't broke, I'm not fixing it. That simple. Not to mention, you know, it makes a cleaner, nicer piece and everything else. You know, in my world where we make a living doing it, if, you know, my drawer bottoms are as smooth as the rest of the case. And it's one of those things that shows you care. And it shows them that you really put the effort into making something and making it well. Just the way we do it. And like I said, one of the other reasons we're doing 3 of these is to show you some neat different finishing techniques. Okay, I'm going to get this off the bench and we'll get our cherry maple poplar, and I don't think there's any oak in it, but we ain't done yet. We'll get it up here and talk a little bit about what we need to do for the drawers. All right, the drawers. Here's our issue. We have to have something in this area for the drawer to run on. And we have to have something in the top. I call them a tilt rail. And basically what it is that when the drawer comes out, we don't want the drawer to be able to flop up, tilt up. Now initially, this was going to have 2 drawers. This is the back of it you're looking at right now. It was going to have 2 drawers. We were going to put a divider down here. However, the female powers that be around here decided that they would rather see it have one big drawer for, you know, cookie sheets and pins and whatever, that type of thing. So, go get one drawer, what can I tell you? You know, there you are. That ends that story, right? Anyway, so what we have to do is we have to create something for this to run on. Now, without question, we could just simply put a block of wood back here and put another piece on top of it for the drawer to run on. That wouldn't be a thing in the world wrong with that. It would do fine, as well as up here. But we also got to get our floor in, so we'll have to finagle with that just a little bit. And that would be an easy way to handle this one. But I want to show you something that we do. We make what we call a drawer frame. And basically what it is we take, in this case, 1.25 inch piece of wood. We attach another one, in this case, just on the ends, because that's the only place we need it. And then another piece. And this actually will screw in or glue in very much like our shelf sits in there, or our bottom. And it creates us a structure for the drawer to run on. In this case, where we've got the 1.75 inch material, where we've got a thin, narrow piece like here in the front, even though it's, you know, it's probably never going to go anywhere, it's not going to move. By bringing this in to it and being able to glue it across the front, what it does is it just reinforces that rail or that cross member just that much more. Again, adds a lot of strength. So that's what we're going to do. Now we use the drawer frames in everything. And even in our higher end furniture, we use a form thereof. And let's look over here if we can, just a little bit. I hope we can see a little bit in this secretary. Now this is done with a sliding dovetail. In other words, the female portion is cut all the way across the side, and then the male is shaped. It's all done with a router, and the drawer runners in here are actually The sides of them are done in the dovetail and it slides in. Now, the only place this is glued is right here in the front. And there's an expansion joint, just like we had in that floor, in the back. So these pieces are actually just in a slide, so that these sides can expand and contract as they wish without giving issue. Understand? But the dovetail in there also keeps this side from ever being able to cup or warp. Works out pretty nice. But we don't have anything quite that complicated here. So we're just going to do a drawer frame, get it in, and then we can look about making our door. Now, another version of a mortise and tenon that's been around a while is a biscuit. I ain't talking about the ones down at the fast food restaurant. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's do some biscuits. All right, I feel sure if you're watching this and you've done any woodworking at all or looked and read anything, you know what a biscuit joiner is. And what a biscuit is. Biscuit is basically either a laminated or a compressed beech is the typical wood. What happens is it makes for a tenon. And yeah, it looks like a little football, don't it? And they come in all kind of different sizes. This is the larger. This is a number 20. Now in this structure, we don't need a lot. It's just not holding a lot. And yes, just as we did with everything else, we could very easily do mortise and tenons. But again, this is just something to look at. Now what a biscuit joiner has is you have a saw blade, a plunge saw blade that cuts the oval shape for the biscuit. And depending on depth as to which biscuit you're using. And again, like I said, in this case, it's a number 20. And then you have a height and depth adjustment as to where you locate it within the wood. Now I got to dial myself in here a little bit. I want to get about around center, but it ain't got to be perfect. Now a lot of people use biscuits for gluing up large panels like we did, because it creates a it helps you to pull the panels level, creates a leveling device, and it works really well. But all we're going to do is we're just going to use it to make us a little drawer frame. Now my front and back are an 1.25 inches. My sides are 3 inches. I don't really need 3 inches, but I know that in a number 20 biscuit, I need about 2.5 inches, so I make sure I hide the biscuit. So that's just a good number. So all I'm doing is marking the center. And then I'm going to take my biscuit cutter, and I have a center line, simply line it up and make the cut. And what it will do is it will allow the biscuit to go in here, and then of course we're going to make the mate cut in the other one. Now yeah, these have a dust bag goes on them, but then we're simply going to make mark the mate and do the same thing. Now when I get into this one, let me look here a minute. Sometimes when you get out here, you can see here I'm having a problem with level. Now all my wood's the same thickness. The only thing I got to do is put me a little cheat out here so I don't tilt. All right. Then what we'll do is we'll be coating all of this with glue, putting it together, and we have basically a mortise and tenon joint, okay? So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go through and biscuit the rest of these, get them cut. We'll come back and glue it up. All right, I told her to focus over here on the oak one. You see the scroll? And I went ahead and scrolled the end panel a little bit. Just kind of, you'll see more of it, but kind of give you an idea what that one looks like. All right, back to our drawer frames. Now I've got it fit up. Now one of the things I did when I told you I had to do a little finagling was I went and picked a little bit of heavier maple. You know, and when you do a drawer frame, think about it, drawer's gonna be running on it. So you want a pretty good solid wood, something like a maple, a cherry, an oak, you know, a good hardwood. You know, you probably don't, poplar would be okay. You don't want to get into pines and whatever. But here's what I did. When I set a little thicker, I made sure the thickness of my floor and my drawer frame, when it goes in this pie safe, comes up flush. See, now, if you don't have a heavier material like that, for us to go in here and just add a little shim or a little spacer in there, not gonna hurt a thing. So all we gotta do now is glue it up. And that's just a simple matter of make sure everything is coated good in glue. Now they make special little glue bottles that you can get for doing biscuits. I got one, but I didn't feel like cleaning it, so I didn't get it out. And I got gloves too, guys. I really do. Ain't nothing a little soap and water won't fix real quick. All right, I'm gonna get this coated just because ain't no need you sitting here watching me paint glue, huh? Or drop the biscuit. I'll get it after a while, because you know good and well when it fell that it fell in some sawdust and it's all covered in sawdust, right? That's Murphy's Law. You know, you drop something's got glue on it, it's a given fact. It's got to fall on the side the glue is, in the dirtiest spot on the floor. Can't tell you how I know that, but I do. All right. All right. Clamps on it. All right. Got a little glue on my clamp. Come think of it, I got glue all over my clamps. All right, we're square. That's what we want. Okay, I'm gonna glue the other one. We'll let this dry. And next time, we'll process this. We'll sand it up clean and smooth, mount it in the pie safe, and then from there, we'll start working on a drawer and get the hinges and get our doors on.